What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. Big Dave, Bow, BWL Sports is here. Will, the GOAT, perfectly coiffed. Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb. Power producer on the controls, one and only Young Spathis, at Joey Spathis.
That's him.
And joining us in studio today.
Who is it?
One of the loudest believers, self-proclaimed prophet of all things Bulls, host of the Big Red Bus Podcast, Chicago Bulls iPod. Please welcome our dear friend,
yes,
the one and only,
yes,
the real GOAT,
C-Red Fred.
Hey!
Thank you. Follow Fred on Twitter at your own risk, at CBE Fred.
Shout out to Bonus.
I mean, first of all, props to you for creating more unintelligible AI-generated memes than a Russian bot on Twitter. Well, I mean,
there's messages.
Are you where do you find the time, Fred?
I don't usually have a lot of time. Usually I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about potential Bulls trades, and I said, you know what, I'm going to spend 10 minutes, come up with a couple AI images to convey what I'm trying to say. And 10 minutes later, I've got like 40 or 50 ready to go for the next
40
month
or
so.
50?
Yeah, it's a great plan. It's a great plan. I just got to say though first,
this
is a Chicago institution.
Fred.
It's an honor to be on this show. I can't thank you guys enough for having me on with the GOAT, obviously here, Big Dave, we've known forever, and Matt. It really means a lot that you guys invited me, and I can't wait to talk some Bulls.
That's what you're here for.
We're happy you're here, buddy. Happy you're here.
Love to have you.
Yes, man.
Very excited.
This is very exciting. You and Matt have not sat together in years and done something like this.
Funny how the
the
pre and post game cameo Fred made last season happened to be a night that I was taking off.
It was just shockingly.
Very disappointed about that.
Also, we had previously scheduled you for a couple weeks prior to this, and then I had reminded Dave, like, oh, no, I'm out that day. And then Dave was like, all right, well, we're rescheduling Fred.
You're not getting out of this one.
We're not doing this. The Fred wanted you here every time he came here. He would be like, where's Matt? I want to talk to Matt. How's he doing?
You weren't the impetus then for having me on when you're on? You weren't fighting it to say, hey, I want to be on when Fred's on?
No.
Oh, okay.
God love you, buddy. I
Shame
can only
to hear that. I'm really
it's funny. So people think we genuinely dislike and or even hate each other.
Not true.
I would say this man right here, C-Red Fred, one of the nicest human beings I've ever met.
Yes.
All the people I've come across in my days talking about the Bulls, engaging with the Bulls fan community, you will not find a nicer human being. I just worry sometimes about his mental health and then the mental health of others when he's spreading his propagandist bull to people who want to believe it and drink that Kool-Aid. But I'm very happy you're here right now because for those Bulls fans who maybe not be quite believing in the rebuild thus far or half a rebuild, seems like you might be not even drinking the Kool-Aid yourself these days, Fred.
I'm definitely not. This is the first time I've ever made a public appearance without a Bulls Bulls shirt on. I'm wearing all black in honor of this offseason, which I would say is probably the worst offseason in the last 25 years for Chicago Bulls. Very disappointing. But, that said, you're right. It is contrary to my nature not to be positive. So I'm going to let it all out, all the negativity out on this show. And then I'm going to start being sunny and excited about the upcoming season. But man, oh man, was this a rough offseason.
Talk about it, Fred.
God, I am. Speaking of drinking a Kool-Aid, I'm drinking angry Fred Kool-Aid right now, and it's fantastic.
Give him some more, Fred. Tell him why you're mad,
Let's start out with the Collier quote. For anyone who's not familiar, Jamal Collier of ESPN had an interview with an unnamed source in the Bulls front office. And in that interview, the unnamed source basically said, Zach LaVine is a loser. Zach LaVine has not won at any time. And if it's in Zach's best interest, if he wants him to come off this team, to come and comply. There are so many things wrong with that quote, so many things that I found irritating, starting with it's factually incorrect. I'm old enough to remember the Bulls won 46 games a few years ago with Zach LaVine as the second best player on that team. But that said, for the, just for the argument's sake, let's say that is true. This is the same front office that acquired Nikola Vucevic, who, I took the time to look it up. Get ready, hold on to your seats. He has about the exact same winning percentage as Zach LaVine does, except he's 5 years older. So if that's so important, if that's so essential that you bring in players that have a history of winning and that they participate and comply, then why did you expend so many assets to get Nikola Vucevic on the roster? That said, that's no longer here nor there. Since let's move on to the primary point of this, which is, why would you say that about Zach LaVine? You're trying to trade Zach LaVine. Why are you diminishing in an asset by giving this information to a national ESPN reporter who's only going to repeat it, you've diminished the asset that you're actually trying to trade. You should be saying Zach LaVine's averaged 24, 25, 26 points per game. He's a 50, 40, 90 guy. He's healthy. You can't wait to see him back in camp. You don't say he's a loser. It's complete idiocy.
Were you paraphrasing? I don't remember reading the word loser in that quote. It was sort of like
paraphrase.
Paraphrase. The way I remember it being phrased was like he hasn't proven to be a winner.
The quote was he's never won, I believe.
Or he's never won, which is not the same as calling someone on your team a loser.
No, it's exactly the same. To say he's never won.
Here's the quote.
He's a loser.
According to Collier, a team source told ESPN, he's never won. He's done it his way the whole way and never won. If he's interested in winning, he'll do what's asked of him. And if he's motivated to not be here, one way is to be compliant, and be who he is.
Oof. Yeah.
Horrible quote.
Okay. It is about as bad as I remember it being when I first read it.
It's a bad quote.
Yeah, it's a bad quote.
Yeah.
We were lost in a haze of Chicago Bears, all great stuff this summer. That quote is the worst quote I've ever heard from a front office in 25 years. Not only is it horrible for the player and affecting your ability to move him.
What about being high on Paul Zipser? Your boy Gar?
I don't want to talk about Paul Zipser right now. We'll get to him later. I also want to highlight, who did you piss off in that? Do you recall what happened after that quote? What happened next?
What happened?
Arguably the most powerful agent in the NBA is pissed off, and he has to do an interview to address that quote. Who is that, Rich Paul? How is this good for the future of the organization? That's all I ever heard is we're bringing in this front office to improve the relationships throughout the league. We're going to bring in more talent. This is extremely detrimental. It's beyond stupid, and I can't believe it happened. It's not being talked about enough. There should be a public apology, and whoever provided that quote needs to be rooted out and either a public apology or let go of the removed from the organization. Do you agree with me? Is that not the worst quote you've ever heard? Come on.
I've heard worse.
Oh, I've missed you, Fred. Everything is always spoken in hyperbole. It's the worst. The best.
I'm not going to go so far as to root anybody out, but I do think that it was probably not very productive if the goal is to rehab the relationship or rehab Zach's values.
Well, and we discussed it on a recent show, like within the last couple of weeks. Since that quote came out, the back half of this offseason, I don't know if you've noticed, Fred, the Bulls have been putting a lot of LaVine love in their various posts around social media.
Yes.
Twitter, Instagram, their official team accounts. We've seen a lot of Zach pictures, a lot of Zach videos, and it's like, we love Zach. Yay, Zach.
Well, I think there's also
who wants Zach?
This element of like, this is the reality of the situation. We can't trade Zach, so how do we deal with it? We have to try to massage this a little bit, and I think as like maybe damning as that quote sounded, I think it was very harsh. I think some of the contents of it are true. Is like Zach needs to come back and play within the system, because that's what's going to make him look good. I think that's what the quote was attempting to say.
There's no doubt that half the people probably watching this agree with that quote. It's irrelevant. You can't say that to a national writer for ESPN. Completely idiotic, completely dumb. Again, if this is you who gave that quote, I want you to go back to Collier and say, hey, Zach is one of the best players we've ever had in this organization. He's a great guy. He's great in the community. 25. He's going to be 25, 50, 40, 90. We love him. We want him here for the rest of his career. End of story. Stupid. No advantage to the org for doing that.
To try and do a corrective spin zone requote all these months later, I don't think that's going to achieve a whole lot, Brad.
Maybe not. I just hope they do it. But good point.
What's way more important than that is that Zach LaVine goes out in the first 15 or so games of this season and proves to everyone that he's healthy and can be that version of him, the two-time All-Star that we know exists.
Can we for 1 second, though, think about if you were Zach LaVine, what would you think of reading that quote?
I'd feel horrible.
Yeah. And what would you think of your Rich Paul reading that quote? Right? Would you feel if you had a tie between this organization and the New York Knicks, who would you send the player to? If the money's equal. We'll move on. The other thing that's really got me angry. Can I keep on going?
Keep going, Frank.
All right, here's another thing that's got me
we got
angry.
an ad break, but not for another 5 minutes. Go ahead, buddy.
The last time I was on this show, which was November 30th, 2023, was at the end of an incredible game where the Bulls won.
Turning point of the season.
Turning point of the season, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Great things happened after that, and I was very happy and very excited. Great things happened. Kobe White and Io, and I stated on this show that I think the Bulls have something here in Kobe White and Io, two excellent players that have huge ceilings. And what happened? I actually stated, I stated this, that you've got 2 players under contract for 3 years, 21 million combined between both of them for the next 3 years. Why don't you try to build with those guys in your backcourt, build around that, get some of those assets, wing depth, rim protection that we really need. And I remember Marc laughed and thought, Marc K laughed. You remember he was a guest on that show again? So that was proven. I was right. Marc was wrong. I just got to throw that out there. Now, what did we do? This offseason, who did we acquire? We acquired another point guard. Why would we do that? Why would a point guard be what is needed for this team when you have 2 combo guys?
They do that.
No, Fred. Hey, Joey, who did Fred compare Kobe White to?
He asked if Kobe White's ceiling was on par with Damian Lillard.
Yes. All right. Let me explain.
Speaking of being hyperbolic,
2023.
I think Kobe White has a Sistine Chapel-like ceiling. I don't think he's reached it yet, and I said it last year, and people laughed. He played extremely well. I think Kobe White is going to have another jump this year. Now, you may doubt me, might say I'm an idiot. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But one thing I've learned, never bet against Kobe White. Do you understand that, Marc in Australia? Is he listening? Is he still paying attention?
Oh, he tunes in.
I hope so. Because
he says hello.
All right, so I think there's another space for him to come up. That said, we acquired Giddey. There were 20 teams that made the playoffs last year, right? 20 teams and play-in. 20 teams that qualified for it. 19 out of those 20 teams were, for one metric, three-point percentage, were top 20 in the league. So the Bulls were actually 20th in three-point percentage. There was only one team in the bottom 10 in three-point percentage. What team was that? Orlando. They were out in the first round. There is no greater indicator of playoff success of a good team than three-point percentage. So what did we do? We took our best and most tradable asset in Alex Caruso and traded him for Josh Giddey, who is, what would you call him as a three-point shooter?
Non-existent?
Not a good one. Not a good one. So we got much worse as a three-point team. I'm not saying Josh Giddey's bad. I hope he can get better. I think he's already topped out. He's worked with the best shooting coach, arguably in the NBA, and he's gone up from 27 to 28 to 33%.
Wait, who's the best shooting coach in the NBA?
Chip Ingham.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah. Fred Vincent is the second best, who's now with the Detroit Pistons. So, Patton might make some miracles, but that said, I think we're in big trouble in terms of three-point shooting, and this has been a consistent problem for the Chicago Bulls.
Haven't you seen the three-point shooting improve with some of those guys like Io and Kobe and the other guys that you mentioned?
Io's three-point shooting has improved. Kobe White actually went down last year. This is another fallacy. People act like
more attempts.
Yeah, people act like Patton's a miracle worker, and he might be a fine coach. But
I didn't say a miracle. I'm just asking.
I'm just throwing out that Dale and Terry went down in three-point percentage. Vucevic went down.
Coming at you, boy, Big Dave.
Zach LaVine went down. Almost every player outside Io, almost every player outside of Io went down in three-point percentage. Right? Am I right?
Caruso had a career year.
Caruso had a career. No, it was not his career high.
Yes,
which was in 2018-19. You're wrong.
But
sure? I'm 100%
sure. And the degree of difficulty.
No, he's gonna look that up.
Matters.
Go look it up. What's that?
The quality, the degree of difficulty, and the volume also impact your shooting. It's not just percentage.
Yeah,
absolutely true.
Yeah, that's why you can't really use Zach in that scenario.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I stand corrected. Caruso shot 48% for the Lakers in the 18-19 season.
Wait, how many?
On 2 attempts a game.
Yeah.
And how many was he taking with the
this season? 4.7 attempts for the Bulls. He shot 40.8%.
You got a question?
No, he's just. This is
1 minute left.
That is a cue from our producer.
But I appreciate that. That's how Fred is.
I mean, you're allowed to have a follow-up question about that ridiculous Kobe-Damian Lillard comparison if you want to.
Let me just.
I didn't get to be here for that conversation.
Hold on a second.
It's why I brought it up.
Can I explain it? Why do you need a standard point, like a traditional point guard to win in today's NBA? The answer is you don't. The Celtics won last year. Who was their point guard? Holiday, who's not a traditional point guard whatsoever.
Nikola Jokic, Denver.
Yeah, but he wasn't really their actual point guard was.
I'm adding another point to your point.
Exactly.
Yeah. The Nuggets did not have a dominant traditional point guard.
Jamal Murray is really a combo guard.
Doing that. So, he's just throwing off.
Fred starts making sense over here. It catches me off guard.
And then the year before that, how dare you? And the year before that was Steph Curry. Again, not a traditional point guard. You do not need a traditional point guard to win in today's NBA. You need combo guards, and Ayo and Kobe White would have been perfectly fine.
Like not a traditional point guard, but Steph Curry's on everyone's list of the best 5 point guards in the NBA of all time because of his elite special skill.
True. My
Changed
point
the game.
is,
Well, hold on.
No doubt.
We got to pay a couple bills.
Okay.
Let's pay some bills and then loop back around to whatever the heck, Fred.
When Jim showed up, I knew it
The
was time
one
to
and
pay some
only
bills.
C-Red Fred's here in studio. We're going to talk more with him right after this.
Oh, this is the best. Baby Joey just texted me. He's so happy right now.
Baby Joe?
Oh, he's so happy right now. He's like, the smile on my face, he just enjoys seeing. And I'm telling you, it's because of this guy right here. Even though he doesn't understand what you're saying because he's a baby. He never understood. He's always asking, why? Why? That's how he cries and says questions. Why these glasses got to cost so much money? He doesn't understand. You know who else didn't get it? Shady Rays. So they say, I'll do something about it. You can get ready for the season ahead with quality shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have got you covered with premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. They're an independent sunglasses company offering that world-class product that's rated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars for over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames. Their shades have crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for your outdoor. And as that handsome gentleman is about to prove, your indoor advenciones. Shout out to GOAT because it's a word. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find that perfect pair to match your style. And even if you don't love your shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop, and that team has always got your back with personal and fast support. So, exclusively for the listeners out there, Shady Rays is giving away their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com. Use the promo code CHGO. Get yourself 35% off of those premium polarized shades. And try it for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars. Over 300,000 people. Because the Shady Rays, y'all, well, them rays are just, so shady. Ooh, the wink by Matt. That was
so good.
Thank you, Fred.
Shout out once again and always to Shady Rays' incredible lost or broken replacement plan, which I tend to use. I throw things, I break things. Fresh, brand new pair replacing my previous pair of the exact same kind that I really like. The blue pair that I have that I was wearing all summer.
Those are sweet.
They survived Vegas. They survived all summer long. They finally fell apart. I think on our CHGO Bears tailgate week 1. Sent an email to Shady Rays. Bam, in my mailbox at home yesterday. A week later, brand new pair.
Yeah, you were definitely throwing things week 1. Okay, I get it.
Week 1 was rough.
I get it.
Today's show is brought to you by Empire. Today, you need some new floors? You got to talk to our friends at Empire. With Empire, you get shopping home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire's the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats in the market. But Empire can't be beaten on their quality, their service, or their speed. So all their competitors can try to do is advertise low-quality products that Empire doesn't even bother to carry in their inventory. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who's promising the lowest prices is attaching those prices to junk floors that Empire won't put in your house because they wouldn't put it in their houses. And that's a fact. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of unnecessary choices and substitutes. Also, be sure to check out their virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any room, any space of your home. The dining room, the kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms.
All the rooms.
All them rooms. They also, at Empire, service their own warranties. So if any issues do arise, just call Empire. They service all the warranties themselves. You won't have to track down a third-party manufacturer's phone number because who wants to do that? Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners of CHGO Bulls can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. 588-2300. Fred!
Empire
Today.
Let's go with the dose of tones,
On his toes.
Come on,
On his
Fred.
toes.
Very good.
On his toes, ladies and
They
gentlemen.
turn it down the opportunity to sing. Ever. Ever, baby. I love it.
He's always ready with an Empire jingle. He's always ready with cherry-picked stats for whatever Bulls argument he's making. This man right here. Where were we, Fred? What were we talking about?
I got one more thing that angered me. Can we talk about that?
Please do.
Fred. Please.
The floor is yours.
Brought to you by Empire.
Patrick Williams,
Like
restricted
that.
free agent, given a 5-year contract. You know, Patrick Williams had a terrible year last year. He had one good month, and I heard I heard you highlight his stats. Was it 14-4-1? Was his good month?
I think 2, but yeah.
14-4-1. He started out
his
the
good
season, lost his starting
Said I'm wrong
job.
with that too.
Yeah, lost the starting job, and to start out the season was awful for the first 19 games. He came back around. He finished the season hurt. I'm not sure if he's completely healthy. It's kind of a mystery. I haven't seen any video, but this is the guy we gave a 5-year deal to. Again, I don't have any issues with the 5-year deal. I do have an issue with the player option, which is just inexcusable. You compare and contrast how a team like the Cavs treated their draft pick in that same year in Isaac Okoro, who had a better year than Patrick Williams. And guess what? They played hardball with him. He's still not signed as far as I know.
Nope, they did sign him this weekend. But it was like 3 years, 38.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the Bulls should have done with a player like Patrick Williams. Instead, they gave out a player option like it's candy. Why? Well, they'll probably say because, we were worried about Charlotte and Detroit offering him a big contract, which, first of all, it's Charlotte and Detroit. You better reevaluate your player if those two teams have an interest in him. But that said, for argument's sake, let's look at, Charlotte and Detroit. Charlotte hasn't offered a restricted free agent to another player, offered a contract to a restricted free agent and another team in over a decade. The Detroit Pistons, it's been 6 years since they'd offered one. Restricted free agents leaving their team is extremely rare. I think Bogdanovich was the last one it happened to. That was, 3 years ago when he left Sacramento for Atlanta.
Pretty good.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You Detroit and Charlotte have young players that are going to get max contracts in the next few years. They're really going to give Patrick Williams $25 million a year? Get out of here. This is insane. We should never given him a player option, but we did. And there's no advantage to the org because if he stinks, he's going to just pick up that 5th year. And if he's really good, we're going to have to play max money in his 5th year. So enough said. Let's move on.
Gus in the comments saying Fred is taking us on such a wild ride. Hey,
love you, Gus.
Enjoy it.
You always get a wild ride when Fred rolls through.
Enjoy it.
And we have both sides of this P-Will debate or discussion or discourse in the comments. Clayton saying, I've been saying it for years, stop calling him P-Will, start calling him P-Won't. Meanwhile, right after that, Rob in the comments says, I continue to collect receipts from P-Will haters. Here, I'll just pose this to you, Fred. I'm curious. Maybe 5 years, 90 turns out to be an overpay and the player option that, as you said, and I agree, the front office seems to give those out like candy to everybody. Why? I don't know. But
me neither.
We have had a similar discussion on this program after Pat signed that contract saying, when you look at this insane continued increase of the NBA's salary cap, and you're talking about the best superstar players in the league going to make $60+ million for a 1 year, for 1 year of a multi-year deal. We just saw Steph Curry's extension the other day. These deals that, like the likes of Jason Tatum just signed. It won't be long before the best, highest paid players in the league are making close to $100 million for 1 year. Meanwhile, role players who are good role players making something a little bit above year to year, whatever the league's mid-level exception is. Pat, it is straightforward 18 mil a year over a 5-year deal. Do you not see the value in realistically saying, hey, if Patrick Williams is a reliable 3-and-D starting caliber player who maybe never reaches a fourth overall pick, star potential that a lot of Bulls fans wanted to see, that there is still value in a contract like that?
I agree. There is absolutely value for a contract like that for a player who is a role player, an elite role player who shoots 40+ from 3 and plays really good one-on-one defense. Where I disagree with you is in the adjective which you called him reliable. He's finished 2 seasons.
I'm not saying he was. I'm saying hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. My counter, and I heard Will say this a lot, and I kind of agree with the general premise, which is like, hey, in 3 years, it's only going to be 10% of the cap. My counter to that is it's 10% of the cap. Like, there's a hard cap now on the NBA at the second apron. People haven't realized it yet, but it's actually factually true, which means every dollar matters. If you're overpaying a role player by $3 million and you keep doing that with each player on your team that you sign, you are going to screw yourself in the future. You're not going to allow yourself to have that flexibility to make those moves and bring in the $60 million player, which is going to make the difference.
So I totally agree with your first point, which is that the player option was a mistake. Like, especially the way that they structured the deal with it being $18 million per year flat, as opposed to 8% annual raises, which is how normally contracts work. As a percentage of the cap, because it's flat, and the cap is rising, that means that the percentage of the contract as a percentage of the cap is actually going down.
Right.
And so you lose the value on the back end that you would be getting by it being a flat contract, because now it's effectively a 472. And so I agree that was unnecessary. You're already probably paying him more than anybody else would. That's where you get the team gets the benefit, right? You get the team option, or it's just a standard 5-year no options. But I will say this, Fred, and I think it might make you feel better. How would you say Patrick is compared to a Dorian Finney-Smith?
I like Finney-Smith. Just picked the wrong guy. I think he's an excellent
defender. Do you
defender.
think he's a similar caliber of player?
I think they're different players. I think Patrick's a better 3-point shooter, I would say, right? I believe so.
I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I think they're very similar archetypes, right? Of 3-4 combo forwards who don't really do much with the ball in their hands, but are good shooters and defend.
Yes.
Same exact percentage of the cap. Dorian Finney-Smith is like a guy who, people were talking about 2 first-round picks for him. And yes, the CBA has changed, but I do think that it is a small enough number as the cap rises that it's probably going to be okay. I think it could have been better. I think the player option makes it much worse, but I don't think that's like such an exorbitant overpay that it's going to be impossible to move. I think you could actually get value for it.
Do you agree that Okoro had a better year?
I believe that Okoro had a better year than Patrick.
And what did he sign for?
I don't believe that he is necessarily a better prospect.
I disagree with that.
First of all, he's like 4 years older.
Yeah.
And secondly,
4 years older.
I'm pretty sure he's
no, he's not. He's 2 years older at the most. And I will say, because Patrick just turned 23, so he's 19,
he's
20,
23.
Yeah.
No, I was wrong about that.
They're the same age.
They're the same age.
They're the same age.
I thought he was an older prospect. I was wrong about that. In any event, I don't think that maybe I'm biased here, but I would still say Patrick has a higher offensive upside than Okoro. And
Okoro shot 39% last year.
Yeah, but he's
from 3
wide open, and he's not shooting as many.
So's Patrick.
And he
doesn't shoot any.
Completely ignored. Like, you still have to close out to Patrick.
We'll agree to disagree on this, because I think that Okoro is a better defensive player than Patrick.
Probably at this point, yeah.
Yes, he is. He's elite defensively.
Yeah.
Elite.
For the record, Dorian Finney-Smith, career 35.5% 3-point shooter on 4.2 attempts. P. Will, 41% career 3-point shooter, but only 2.8 attempts spanning his first 4 seasons.
I'm not denying that there is tremendous value in Patrick Williams. I like him as a role player. The issue I had is, you look at some of the contracts that were out there. Let's just look at Obi Toppin, who had a great year. Different player, for $15 million per year, $60 million contract. Sure. The Bulls overpaid. They did overpay. They could have played hardball with him. This is an injured player. This is a player who had one good month. This is a player that there's a lot of red flags about.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was a evening of June 30th announcement that they signed into that deal. So that was their first priority.
Correct.
Their first priority when free agency window opened was, let's get this Pat deal signed.
Yeah. So what are you paying him though, Fred?
I would have been fine 54 years. $60 million a year. I've been totally fine with that. Mm-hmm. But again, that 5th-year option, I couldn't believe it when it came through.
It's the process that you're upset about. And
the process,
but it's like you could have tried to squeeze him there, and it didn't seem like they did, because they rushed into it, because they gave him the option. They could have done better.
And it also, just think about it. Everybody's like, well, you're making a big deal about $3 million. Gary Trent Jr. just signed with the Bucks for $3 million. It was under $3 million, I believe. There are good players signing. So once this team is good and you're 4 or 5 and you got Patrick making $19 million, if you would have had that extra $3 million, you could possibly get a player like a Gary Trent Jr. who's going to make a big difference in the quality of your team. Every dollar matters with a hard cap. Everyone. So you had all the leverage and you gave it all away. Exact opposite how you treated Kobe White. They used the restricted free agent hammer on him. And you signed him to a team-friendly deal. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you do that with Patrick Williams? The reason why is they didn't draft Kobe White. That's why. And I find it very irritating that we're how many years are we into this front office? And I think you make the argument the 2 best players on the team are the only 2 that were left over from Gar Pax, Zach LaVine and Kobe White.
I mean, Gar and Pax didn't bring DeMar here for 3 All-Star seasons.
I love DeMar, but that wasn't a free agent signing. You threw assets for DeMar.
No, I get it.
We still owe a first-round pick that could be like number 11 next year.
I get it. And look, I'm not sitting here defending this front office that, took over for Garpax in the spring of 2020. Man, what a wonderful time that was for all of us. I'm saying, look, they cut some corners to try and rebuild a playoff team, and they did that. And now they are reaping what they sow and are in a real bind of a spot. But,
I don't know if it's a bind of a spot.
Oh, no, sorry. We're going to pay a couple bills real quick. We'll come back.
We shall resume this conversation
I like this
on the other side. This is a fascinating conversation.
Yes. Ray Chevy. He sells cars, and he's awesome. If you're in the market for a bigger vehicle, find savings to match at Ray Chevrolet this September, because truck and SUV month is going on right now, C-Red Fred. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models at new low prices. Right now, take $3,000 up to $12,000 off of your MSRP on most new Chevy models, or cruise into fall in your own way and shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this September at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or at raychevrolet.com. And if you heard of Ray Chevrolet, then that means you have definitely heard of the Ray's Price Promise. It's their guarantee to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever, with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices that we're talking about right now, you can expect to see those very same prices when you shop Ray Chevy in store or online. Shop truck and SUV month all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive to Ray Chevrolet.
Today's show also brought to you by Rugged Road, which is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers like you who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest of conditions. Whether you're on land or water, out camping somewhere crazy and treacherous, or just at a tailgate with some of your friends and family, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. And one of my favorite things about those Rugged Road coolers, proud owner of one myself.
Canoeler.
That's right. They float, and they always float upright. If you're doing a little kayaking, a little canoolering, bring that Rugged Road cooler right along with you. It floats in the water, and it stays upright, never tipping over, never lose a drink. No one likes losing drinks.
Nobody.
Unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road also makes incredibly light coolers, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. The coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure, whether it be camping or a tailgate or whatever else you have planned this fall. With Rugged Road coolers, reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Promo code CHGO will get you 10% off. All right. Interesting point you brought up, Fred, about the whole, the holdovers of Kobe and Zach being now in the aftermath of DeMar DeRozan's departure, the two best players on this roster, and the two that remain from the roster that AK and Eversley inherited. It's an interesting point. And we were talking about this off the air a little bit before our show started. I am not convinced of what I think it sounds like you are convinced of, which is, had the new front office not so drastically flipped the roster and changed course, that had that old core of Kobe and Zach, yes, but also maybe Lauri Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr., Daniel Gafford, et cetera, if they had stuck with that crew, that we would be in a much better position now than we are in reality. I don't necessarily see it that way, because I think either way you were looking at a team that would be capped out as a first-round playoff exit team. And that's what happened. We took a different route to get there, but that's what happened.
Maybe so. I mean, I think the big sin was the Vooch trade. I understand what they were trying to do. I thought it was a great idea, and I agree with it at the time. They gave up too many assets. The understated part of that trade was taking the Aminu contract, which essentially hamstrung your team and some of the flexibility you had. You were forced to get rid of him in order to get DeMar here, and in doing so, you had to give up additional draft assets. Like, there's no doubt. I understand what they were trying to do. He was a stretch 5. He was shooting over 40% when they acquired him. But unfortunately, he's gone from one of the best three-point shooting bigs when we acquired him to one of the worst in the league. And that, to me, that decline has caused an apocalypse for the ceiling of this team offensively. No doubt about it. And that, it's unfortunate because I think Vooch is a fantastic human being. In the end, that's all that really matters. He's a good passer. He does a lot of good. He's a good rebounder. But, that stretch 5, that ability to bring out a big is so important for the NBA. The NBA today is two things. Do you have enough players to extend the floor and shoot threes? And do you have enough players who can punish an extended defense? We've been struggling since the day these guys took over with the latter and former. We don't have enough guys that can hit the three and extend the defense. We were 20th last year in the league. I think we're going to go way down this year when our biggest acquisition was Josh Giddey, and we drafted Matt, Buzelis, whatever you feel about him. Fantastic prospect, but he can't shoot. He can't shoot at all. And he's proven that so far. So hopefully that will develop. But it's a disaster right now. And you know what? I will say this, though. I want it to be a disaster. I want it to be bad.
Fred.
Don't you want it to be bad? This year I want it to be really bad.
Preach to me, Freddie.
Tell us why, Fred.
Well, just because we're losing our pick if it's not top 10 protected, and I think Cooper Flagg's going to be a really incredible player who's going to potentially, bring. My goal is 25 wins in 25, and in 27 find heaven. I really think it's possible that we can get a Cooper Flagg and build around him and do something great in a few years. But right now, I don't see the benefit of finishing 10th or 11th in the play-in, and then for what?
So let me ask you this question then, because I think it is directly correlated. When the Bulls stood pat at the trade deadline this past season, when they were, looking like they were going to be the 10th or maybe 9th seed again, and we were hearing reports of various kinds of various trade offers of what they might get for Alex Caruso if they sold him at that point in time, what they might be able to get for Andre Drummond, who left for nothing in free agency. As a Bulls fan who I think has always been at the forefront of whatever headaches might be going on day to day, rah, go team, let's go to the playoffs. Don't sell off your assets midseason. The Bulls are right there. They're a play-in team, and who knows what could happen. And I'm not just poking fun at you for that. Like, Big Dave was sitting here on the set every night saying, go to the play-in, because who knows? Well, I was saying, God damn it, they're ruining their draft lottery stock right now. Trade, get the valuable assets now, and point towards the bottom for March and April. What did you make of their decision to stand pat? Did you think it was their best interest to trade? Or did you say, we'll deal with that later. I want to go to the playoffs?
I thought they should have traded. I was fine with them keeping Caruso. I honestly was, because I thought he was so valuable to development of the team. And I think there is value in even getting to the playoffs and having a first-round exit. You look at that 2009 team, the fact that Noah and Rose experienced the playoffs, even though they lost in the first round of the Celtics, I think that had tremendous value in their development as players, and it led to them becoming a contender a few years later. I'm a believer in Kobe White, a massive believer in Kobe White. I'm a believer in Io. I think getting to the playoffs for those two players would have been tremendously valuable. I was kind of shocked that they weren't able to beat Miami, especially with Butler out.
You were shocked?
I was shocked. I thought they were absolutely going to win that game. I don't know.
Bulls going to bowl, Fred. Come on, man.
Come on. They looked great against Atlanta.
They looked great against the Atlanta Hawks.
That was a great experience. I liked that, and I really enjoyed
42. It was a great game.
The Atlanta Hawks, whose defense would have been the exact same had you been out there.
Damn.
Maybe possibly.
Yeah.
or me. Come on. You cannot have been that impressed by that win against the Atlanta Hawks in the playing game.
I thought Kobe was
42. That's impressive.
Of course you were impressed.
Kobe White had an incredible game. 42 points.
It's impressive.
There was no value in that? I think there was some value.
I'm not saying there was no value in that. I'm saying it should not have all dictated how you felt about their next matchup against the Miami Heat's defense. And be surprised by the outcome of that game, Jimmy or no Jimmy.
Yeah, but they didn't have Butler. I mean, the fact they should have beat the Heat. They didn't have Butler. They played terrible. Everybody on the team played awful. There would have been value for the Bulls to get waxed by the Celtics in the first round.
What value?
Kobe White would have developed, I think, in getting the taste of the playoffs. Will, you agree with me on this, don't you?
No.
I don't.
No, he doesn't. Just me and you, Fred. Just me and you, baby. Just me and you.
I'm very much like. I think the difference between what you're talking about with 2009 is that the core of the team that eventually made it to the conference finals was in place. You had the franchise player. I think maybe the fundamental disagreement is where we see Kobe White. I think he's a very good player, but I think you need. I think the Bulls are still looking for their best player on a championship caliber team, and really until you find that guy, I don't think any form of like being competitive is worth it. Like that is the single most important thing in basketball in team building is finding a star player. Until you've done that, I just don't know what you're doing. And so that leads me to my next question, which is, I think it's fun to relitigate all these past things, but I'm curious, Fred, from your perspective, like this is what the Bulls roster is going into the season. You have Giddey here, you have Kobe, you have Io, Zach's still on the roster, Vooch still on the roster, Lonzo maybe comes back, maybe not, who knows. You got Patrick, you got this core, you got Buzelis in here. Where do they go from here? Like, how do you get this team out of this sort of lower middle class that they've been stuck in for the last 8 years?
It's a great question.
That's a great question. Mm-hmm. I would state, well, first of all, I think Kobe White has an all-star ceiling. You look at Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, when he was 24 years old, no one expected him to be where he's at today.
Okay, but even if I'll allow you that. Even if Kobe has an all-star ceiling, and I'm not saying he doesn't, I still don't think that having one all-star is enough to win a championship.
No doubt.
You need multiple all-NBA players.
No, what they need is they need to finish in the bottom 10 this year in a loaded draft with at least 7 players who would have been number 1 in this previous draft. They need to be bottom 7 and get a difference maker there. There are difference makers. There's Harper. There's a lot of really good players. Obviously, Cooper Flagg. It's not just Cooper Flagg in this draft. I think it's entirely possible that they could tank, quote-unquote tank, and still look good. Have a very good, exciting offensive team with Josh Giddey leading them to get a lot of points. But defensively, this team is going to be an abomination. They have one player in the starting team that I think is probably over average in terms of Patrick Williams on one-on-one defense. He's not a great team defender. This team is going to be awful defensively. Who's a rim defender on this team? Their front court is awful in terms of defensively. This is going to be a bad year defensively. And I think of Billy Donovan somehow. We were 21st in the league last year with, Caruso was top 5 in the league defensively.
Right.
How did we improve defensively?
You didn't.
They didn't.
It's going to be awful.
And last season they plummeted from somehow the season prior managing to finish as a top 5 defensive rating wise.
I'm looking it up now because I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I
Julia.
do believe that before Patrick Williams got injured, when they still had obviously Caruso and Patrick, they were at a much higher level. And then once Pat went out and you're asking Caruso to do everything, the defense does kind of fall off after that. But
so
I'm looking at it.
This is an interesting question. Adrian in the comments asking, just an honest question, how will you guys react to wins this season? So it sounds like, Fred, as much as you love to bang that big red drum, you see the logic of it being in the team's best interest to keep that top 10 protected pick that they owe San Antonio next summer.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you willing to say here and now on our platform where we are so happy to have you that Frederick Big Red Bus get in, or if you don't, you're a hater, Pfeffer is rooting is rooting for L's this season?
I am rooting for L's this season. I am rooting for L's this season. I am, and I actually think
call the news.
I think it is possible. I will state this.
Call your sons. Call your daughters.
I think it's actually entirely possible that Kobe White hits another level, gets another higher ceiling, and the Bulls end up 11th. They get in the play-in, and they end up 11th. And in that scenario, they hand their pick to the Spurs. I think it's a worst-case scenario.
Okay, follow-up question. Say by some inexplicable reason, as we see things now, the Bulls find a way to start the season 6-4. Are you getting back in your big red bus if they start the season 6-4?
Yeah. Probably entirely possible. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm not going to – if they go 6-4, but what are the odds of that happening? I think they're very unlikely that the Bulls are going to go 6-4.
I agree. I was just curious.
I'm curious of you guys, too. Like, I want to ask this question because we kind of talked about pregame, but do you feel – I think this is entirely possible, this scenario. Io outplays Giddey in camp. Is that possible?
Ooh, this is a juicy tidbit.
What happens if Io outplays Giddey in camp?
Well, here's what I'm going to go back to on this. And just back to what you said about being crowded at the guard position. How do you expect Giddey to be the point guard? I mean, he really doesn't play that. He can be the 3 and play that position while Kobe is at the 1.
Well, not offensively.
And Zach being at the 2 and him at the 3, and then Patrick Williams at the 4 and Vooch at the 5.
I guess I think what's going to happen is Giddey's going to be handed the keys to the offense. He's going to be the on-ball primary. He's going to be the primary on-ball handler. I think we're going to probably see a usage rate around 25%. And if you look at every NBA player outside of C.J. McCollum, almost all those players who had a 25% or higher usage rate were all-stars. We're going to turn over the keys to an offense to a guy in Josh Giddey, who I don't think is close to an all-star level, but he has to be on ball and have 25% higher usage rate. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think he'll put up counting stats, and worst part about this is I predict he's going to get paid $30 million per year next year. Because why? Do you think he's better than Emmanuel Quickley?
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
I do, though. Is he not better than Emmanuel Quickley? Do you think he's better than Emmanuel Quickley, Will? Would you rather have Giddey or Quickley? I'd rather have Giddey. What would you have?
I don't know.
Come on. Come on. It's a pretty easy answer. I'd rather have, what about you? Quickley or Giddey?
Pass.
Hello, everybody. Giddey
Quickly. I'll take Quickly.
All right, Quickly. Well, he makes $35 million a year. Right? That's what the market
he said,
is
hold
now.
up. You ain't let me
So
finish.
what is Giddey going to make next year?
I will say this. Starting point guard money, like average starting point guard money is going to be like $28 million a year. So I would not be surprised if you're correct that it's around 30.
Yes.
And I don't see why Giddey would sign a deal for less than that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Man,
Holy shnikes. July 8th, 2024, Quickly signed a 5-year, 107. I forgot about that.
Yes.
In all of the contracts this summer.
Checks.
$175 million for Quickly.
I will say this,
Which is
though,
ridiculous, but that's the market.
51 players had a 25 or higher usage rate last year, so not all of those guys are all-stars. But Giddey, I think his highest ever usage rate is like 24. So he's not like going to be this Luka Doncic, has the ball in his hands every possession. I don't think the Bulls can or should or will play like that. I still think Kobe's going to has an opportunity to have even more usage than last year. So I think this idea that like Giddey is going to totally dominate everything and that's going to hold everybody back is a little overblown. I do think that he is a very tough fit, and that is a problem when you're team building. So, but that doesn't necessarily stop him from putting up these big numbers. Now, it's on the Bulls to say, okay, great, you put up some big numbers, but what does that mean for us? And how do we build the team moving forward? So that Giddey's contract negotiation, I think, is probably the most interesting following, where do they pick in the draft? Probably the most interesting storyline for the season ahead.
Just a reminder to hit that like button if you're hanging out with us on YouTube, our fellow diehard Bulls fans. Our guy C-Red Fred in the building.
The place to be.
Give the likes to our guy C-Red Fred. So, I mean, my short answer to you, Fred, on the question of like what happens if Ayo outperforms Giddey in training camp, Giddey still starts and Ayo still comes off the bench. And you may have been raising that question to say that you disagree with that if that is what happens. But you said, I don't see Giddey as someone with all-star potential. I think I'm kind of in line with you there right now. However, if you recall the way that Woj phrased his tweet when that report of the Caruso-Giddey trade happened, the phrasing about all-star potential was in that Woj tweet about Josh Giddey and how the Bulls view bringing in a player like Giddey.
That's right.
So clearly, if there's somebody in the city of Chicago who thinks Giddey has all-star potential and upside, it's the guys who just traded for him this summer.
Yes.
And they are not going to sit on the bench that guy that they just gave up Alex Caruso to get because Ayo outperforms him in 6 practices in training camp. That is not happening.
Matt, I'm not disagreeing with you. My counter is for the team and for the health of the team, that is an absolute issue. The best coach I ever was associated with, who I played for in high school, had a saying: the worst thing you could do is give time to a player who does not deserve it. And if Ayo outplays Giddey in camp and continues to be better, and I would argue Ayo is a better fit right now because he's so much better defensively. We have no defenders on the perimeter that are really outside of Williams that are good. And you just give him the position, that is terrible for the team. Everybody on the team who's practicing every day will see if Ayo is beating him. And why should Ayo just cede the position to Giddey? I want them battling for it. And if he earns it, give it to him.
He's not the front office or the coach, so I don't think Ayo can just say, hey, give me that starting lineup card, I'm going to scratch out Giddey's name and write mine, and then go whisper to Tim Sinclair, like, "Hey Tim, I'm starting tonight, not Josh."
Do you know how detrimental that is, though, for the health of the team? If
I'm
every
not
player in that team sees, hey, you know what? Io deserves this spot ahead of Giddey, and you give it to Giddey?
Dude, Fred, I'm not disagreeing with your logic, man. I agree with you. I think that there is at least a decent chance that Io looks like a better player than Josh Giddey in training camp. It's certainly possible that happens. Sure. I'm just telling you, you're getting yourself real worked up about something that you can't change.
This is Matt telling you this.
Giddey is starting.
I agree.
Assuming he's healthy, Giddey's starting. And the other thing is that Billy and his staff and AK and Eversley have all learned now over the last 3 years that Io is a chameleon. Yeah. And he says, oh, you need me to start tonight? Cool. You need me to come off the bench tonight? Cool. And especially this past season, thrived in both roles. They need to prioritize making Giddey a thing and fitting the pieces around that, and fitting Io as one of the pieces around that, to them, I think, in their minds, is a higher priority than who wins the training camp battle.
Hold on, Will, go ahead.
I was also just going to say, like, I think that would be an issue if the team were trying to be really good this year, but they're not, or they shouldn't be.
That's where I disagree. All right, do you think Billy's going to go out and just prioritize development over winning? I don't think that's going to happen.
I think that I hope that happens.
Well, here's the most certain way you'll know. Can we all agree here that Craig is a better answer than Dale and Terry if you want to win?
Yeah, I agree with that.
If we see Craig getting minutes over Dale and Terry, the Bulls have prioritized winning over development. And I think that's exactly what you're going to see.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then I think, Billy has some tough decisions to make, because it's going to be difficult to play a player who doesn't fit as well over a player who does. But again, I think Matt's right in saying that, like, the Bulls brought Giddey in to be a franchise cornerstone. And I think, take that for what it is, but I think that's probably what happened here.
All right. And I agree with you, Fred. Like, the panic when you think down the road is if they really just shove Giddey
that's the thing you should be more alarmed about.
And he ends up having himself something even comparable to that OKC season where it was whatever it was, like 17-7-6 or whatever. And everybody was like gushing over that. If he does similar stats in a Bulls jersey for a Bulls team that wins somewhere between 25 and 30 games, and they use that to validate giving him a multi-year deal, paying him upwards of $30 million annually, that terrifies me to my core.
Yeah, that's what I think is entirely possible. Not only entirely possible, likely to happen. And I will follow that up with, to the Giddeyits out there who believe that this guy is absolutely fantastic. And I'm not saying Giddey's a bad player. I like Giddey.
There's no need for name calling, Fred.
I'm sorry. I'm not saying. Let me finish my thought. He's not a bad player, but I do not think he's going to be a player you need to build your team around, which is exactly what you have to do. Let me just ask you guys, what if Giddey is the cornerstone, as you said, Will, of this franchise? Let's say they make him the cornerstone. What is the number one thing you have to have around him?
Shooting, defense, rim protection.
Let's stop right there. Oklahoma City was the number one team in three-point shooting last year. Mm-hmm. Number one. You're not going to get any better than that. So why did he fail in Oklahoma City?
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're laying down here. I'm just saying that's my perspective on what I think happened, and that is the bigger issue. But I agree. I mean, the fact that Giddey wasn't able to thrive in a system that was in many ways built to cover up his flaws is problematic. I think that's why he was traded.
That's exactly why I come back to it.
Fred, can I ask, if Giddey does improve his three-point shooting, where do you stand on Josh
I'm all on board. I think this guy, I'm all in. I do not think the combination of being a poor.
That's what I'm asking.
That's where I disagree. Okay. I think he's worked with the best shooting coach. He's got him up to 33%. 33% sucks for a guard.
I mean, wouldn't you say that for Lonzo when he first started?
He worked with Fred Vincent and he got up to 40.
But no, I'm saying, when you think he couldn't have done that, and then he turned into one of the best shooters that actually the best three-point shooter the Bulls had.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm saying it's a possibility.
It is a possibility, but I'd say it's more possible that Kobe becomes a multi-year all-star than Josh Giddey becoming one. This is my opinion.
Right.
But I agree with you, though. Like, that's the biggest issue with Giddey. Like, to me, he's not a good defender. He's kind of has short arms. Mm-hmm. He's never going to be a great defender. He's limited physically. If he developed a jump shot, he'd be a much better player. He'd pull guys out. But everybody who thinks that Giddey's the answer, I encourage you, go to Google Suns, Giddey, Nurkic, and watch a game where Nurkic was guarding Giddey in the paint, never left the paint. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody's like, he's a great passer, and he is a great passer. He's not a great playmaker. Playmakers have gravity. Playmakers create great opportunities for their teammates. And the best way to do that is getting a double. He's never garnered a double. He's an excellent player and an excellent passer. And I like a lot of what he does. Excellent rebounder, but he's not a guy you should be building this team around. That's just my point.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I did want to get this, and anyone on this set is free to abstain from this final question I posed to Fred. But somebody in the comments was asking about it, and I'm genuinely curious how you feel too, Fred. Adrian in the comments asked, how does Fred feel about fans who are gatekeeping the protest talk, which I assume is referring to some Bulls fans saying, hey, you unhappy with your lot in life and the performance on the floor? Why do they have any reason to change things if we keep showing up and putting money in their pockets? I've said things of a similar nature on this very program over the last couple of frustrating years. As one of the most diehard, true, red-blooded Bulls fans I have ever come across in my life, Fred, how do you feel about those opposing theories right now of like, hey, you know what? Kobe White did go off in that playing game, and it was fun, and the United Center was packed with Bulls fans going crazy. But you are sitting here saying, I am not impressed with the job the front office is doing, but are they on the hot seat? Probably not, because the UC is full.
I am adamantly against this, the efforts to mobilize an effort for people not to show up at the United Center. I think, first of all, the measure of a fan, the measure of you as a human being, is how you are in the worst of times. It's not when things are going well. It's easy for everybody to show up in their sweaters when things are going well in 2010, 11, 12. It's a little bit more difficult to show up in 2018, 19 when you're going through a horrific rebuild with the ball dope as the coach. That is how you define yourself as a fan. Not somebody who's just going to sit at home and start arguing and yelling at people who go to games. I took my kids to the game last year. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. It's always entertaining. What good is it? You think you're punishing Jerry? Do you know how many people work at the United Center in concessions, who work in the parking lot, that aren't just associated with Jerry Reinsdorf, that are part of the Bulls organization? There are great people that work for the Bulls organization. I am totally and adamantly against this idea that we should not show up. Those people can pound sand and try to tell me that I can't go to the game. Pound sand. I'm going to every game if I can. I don't care what you say. If you don't want to go, that's perfectly fine. Absolutely,
but also
sir.
pound sand.
Yeah, but also pound sand. Yes, because I don't think you're a great fan. I do not understand that concept. I do not think you're a great fan.
That's bullshit, man.
Well, no, let me just say, I do not think you're a great fan if you're just like, I'm going to stop watching. I'm not going to care about the Bulls anymore.
Whoa. I didn't say stop watching. I said stop giving them your money.
Fair enough. Fair point. I don't have any problem with that. If you don't want to go, if you want to show your protest by not giving them money, when you're watching, you're still giving them money. You're giving them eyeballs and you're giving them audience that they then use to sell to advertisers. Right?
Technically speaking, in some weird way, yes.
I love this organization.
Okay.
Let me just say one more thing.
Yeah.
I got to say this right now. The Chicago Bulls brought me more enjoyment in the past decade.
37
the 2014-15 team brought me so much happiness. Even the three Alphas. I love the three Alphas.
Talk to me, Fred. Yes,
the three Alphas brought me so much enjoyment. The Bulls have brought me more enjoyment than all the other sports teams in Chicago combined, because I can remember the 6 titles. So anybody who tells me the Bulls suck, I'm so sick of the Bulls being treated as a redheaded stepchild of Chicago sports.
Well, that's how they operate. So, yeah, all those great times that happened 25 years ago. Those are great, Fred. Those are great.
We won 46
the reason
games
people
2 years ago.
treat them like that is because they treat the fan base, the very loyal and always showing up fan base, to a crap product or a barely mediocre product for the last quarter of a century.
Matt, when was the last time the Bears won a playoff game?
2010.
January 2011.
Right, so on the heels of the 2010 season. Yes.
Correct. Exactly right. Is anybody saying we shouldn't be watching the Bears?
Probably plenty. Yeah. I know people who've given up. I know people who've given up their Bears fandom because that team is crap.
I didn't know anybody this summer. In fact, all I heard was how great this organization is and how we should all be celebrating. The Bears, to me, brought me nothing but heartache for the last.
Did they manage to get their hands on a number 1 pick? and then accumulate some additional draft capital on top of that. And
you want to get into this?
We don't have time to get into this.
No, you got time. You got time.
What talent did it take? All the Charlotte, we got so much of advantage because of the idiocy of the Carolina Panthers. If the Panthers took C.J. Stroud, none of these conversations would have been happening. And the fact is, I heard so many people say, "What a brilliant trade! What a brilliant trade to get Caleb Williams." And I love Caleb Williams. Don't get me wrong, but we passed on C.J. Stroud, who was awesome at Ohio State, who I was a huge fan of, who I wanted the Bears to draft, but we passed on him in order to get obviously DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, etc. Would you trade today? Would you trade DJ Moore and Caleb Williams for CJ Stroud? Be honest. Would you make that trade?
I don't know anything about football. I can't answer.
Oh, come on, you can't. I would CJ Stroud. You cannot say that is the greatest trade of.
I'm not going to say that out loud because I still am very much rooting for and believe in Caleb Williams.
That right.
I love Caleb Williams, but I'm saying we have to be realistic about what the Bears have done. Nothing. Have done nothing. They've won. They're 1-1. We have to stop acting like this whole summer.
Fred, you have a tendency to sing praises for the Bulls when they have a 500 record.
I do, and I'm the exact opposite with my Bears. I'm
it's
not
just a matter of preference, really.
But I will say, because I got on Waddle and Sylvie in April, and I said I was not happy with the offensive line. I got so much hate mail about making that statement.
You get hate mail?
I did get hate mail for that one because I said until they fix the offensive line, we're not going anywhere. That ended up being true.
Yeah, offensive line desperately needed. Fred, always happy when you stop by, man. The one and only C-Red Fred, CBE Fred on Twitter, host of the Big Red Bus. Just did an episode with our guy Marc Shanowski. Check that out. Of course, Chicago Bulls as well. Shout out to our friend Doug.
Doug T.
Let's see what happens, right? Let's see what happens. You heard it here.
It's going to be a fun year.
Fun bad, baby.
25 wins in 25.
Rooting for Else.
27 in heaven.
Would you like to throw a hat, T-Red Fred?
Yeah, sure. Can I throw?
Yeah, because you were angry. And I was going to let you.
There you go. Take that, Bulls front office. Have a better offseason.
There you go.
Will_Golly, Big Day Bow, BAWL Sports.
Wow.
As I mentioned, C-Red Fred, CBE Fred. Our pound producer on the controls, one and only, Joey Spathis at Joey Spathis.
Rock it on.
Yeah, Big Red Bus. You can Google on, not Google, Spotify, all of them. You go Chicago Bulls, Big Red Bus. You can hear the Shanowski interview. Been doing it with Doug Tonis, the podfather, for many years now. Hope you find enjoyment in it.
Comes with a free lobotomy. I kid.
How dare you?
Kid.
This guy.
I love this guy.
my God.
I'm back, Bulls_back. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place, with another fresh live episode, 4 p.m. Central. Hit the like button on your way out. We'll talk to you tomorrow. See, Red, be good.
I'm so happy.
What does that mean? Thanks.